G'day everyone. Thought I'd pop in for the usual live show this week. I usually do it the day before or yesterday, but I actually was busy yesterday, so I've popped in today to go through a few things actually with you. So it's going to be interesting. I'm just going to say hi in the chat to everyone. So say hi guys as you're actually popping in. We're just going to have a bit of a pre-show, just a couple of minutes just to get everyone on board, make sure everyone knows that it's live. So if you are watching a little bit later, I will stick the timeline down below, and I'll actually put up the Oastler images sign before we actually start, so you'll know basically what time we're starting. G'day Mario, good to see you here. Mick's also here. Frosty morning, I know that's why I'm drinking a coffee this morning, Mick. No beer o'clock this morning. I'm not going to be cracking a stubby with you guys today, that's for sure. It's, 9 degrees Celsius, freezing this morning. I'm DeBrand's here. G'day, mate. How you going? Diogo's here. Hey, any a7siii stock around Sydney? I wouldn't think so. Good luck trying to get that, I would think. It's as rare as hen's teeth, basically, at the moment. Rui's saying hi. David's also saying hi as well. So it's great to see you all popping in, guys. Like I said, no beer today. Kerry's just made me a hot coffee, and it's nice, actually. G'day, Dominic. Good to see you here. Chris is also here. Oh, California with a corona. I wish I was over there with you, Chris. Like I said, it's too cold for me this morning. It's 9 degrees Celsius. It's going to be a lovely day, though. I think it's going to be around about 17 or something Celsius, which is warm for winter, but it's too cold this morning to have a beer with you guys. Curious is saying hi. Alex is saying hi. Tokyo, yeah, baby, yeah. I love that name. That's a crack up. G'day from Perth. You're probably a bit warmer than we are this morning. It was a bit frosty this morning. Glad to see you, soul brother. That's Tony. I'm just going to scroll down. Like I said, we'll just have a quick chat just for a few minutes. Guys, if you can, please give a thumbs up as you're getting on. It just makes everyone pop on board and know that we're actually live. I'm going to take you through a number of things today, but I'll talk about that in a minute. But once we basically start the show, but I just wanted to give a few minutes just to let everyone get on board. There's quite a few starting to pop on now, so we should be right fairly soon. Hi, Iqbal, is it? Hi, Iqbal, how are you? Barry's also here. Hi, Barry, how are you? Alex is here. Kevin's also here from Boston. I'm jealous now because you guys, it's quite funny. Not long ago, it was me being in summer and you guys being in winter. Now it's the opposite way around, so I'm sitting here. And by the way, this is not a pink shirt. This is apricot. So if you're seeing this as pink today, you clearly all need your monitors calibrated, guys. It's actually peach. It's not apricot. Because when I put it on, Kerry said, that's peach. It's not pink. So anyone that wants to say I'm wearing a pink top, please get your monitors calibrated because I'm just looking over here and it's clearly peach. Ahmed's here as well from Kuwait. Good to see you here, mate. So what have you all got planned for the weekend? I've got a fairly quiet weekend this weekend, which is good. Remember, it's wedding season's finished for me now. I've got a wedding now in August, so I have got a fairly good break. Mick said, is peach colour. Thank you, Mick, for supporting me. Yeah, weddings basically are finished now for us in winter. Because we don't do many weddings at all in winter over here, unless you're up north in Australia, which is more tropical. Baby pink, maybe. I love you guys. So basically, I've got one weekend off, which is great for a change, because normally I'm always doing something. But, you know, today, basically, I'm just going to chill, have a coffee once we've finished here today, and then I'm going to just get back to doing some editing and things like that. So it's good to actually have a break. It's just saying good to see you too. So what we might do anyway, we've got quite a number of people popping in now. So let me just put down here. Mario said, let us see your shirt in front and of a brick wall. I love the brick wall jokes are still coming in. I love it. You guys crack me up, seriously. All right, so what I'm going to do down here is say, oh, you know what? I hate that. I always do this. I've got a timer to actually time this so I can put down on the list of when things start, and I forgot to put the timer on. How far are we into it? 5 minutes, so I'll just start it and add 5 minutes. Oh, I don't know. I'm hopeless. I forget everything. Just let me put a note, add 5 minutes. Otherwise, people will whinge that I'm not putting a timeline in. What else have we got? Mario said, let's see your show. Oh, I read that before. Craig said, hi, David. Thanks for the vids. There's no way we can get the a7 III to play with here in Adelaide. Thanks for showing us the things are going on for you. Yeah, it's that camera is extremely hard to get, and it's still on back order, like serious back order in most places. You're just going to have to wait. It's worth it though, but if you're definitely thinking about getting one, I do suggest that you actually put in your pre-order now, because if you just keep waiting, it's just going to be a longer and longer wait. So if you really are thinking about getting one, don't wait until they're in stock, because I think you're going to be waiting a long time. It might be better to put a pre-order in and then at least get it as soon as they're delivered. At least you're in the queue then, rather than, like waiting for that. Otherwise, it's going to be a nightmare. It's like the 105 as well. The 24 to 105 is extremely hard to get. The Tamron will also be extremely hard to get as well. I think they're now saying June until the next shipment of B&H. So, it's interesting. And I think once the firmware is going to come out, and I'm going to talk all about that shortly, it's going to be very hard to get as well. Oh, coffee's nice and warm. I was just saying it's 9 degrees Celsius here this morning, so it's very cold. So it's too cold to have a beer with you guys. All right, well, we're going to start. So what are we up to? 1:45. So let me just switch over to the thing and we'll start, guys. Good morning, everyone, or good day. No beer o'clock today with you guys. It's too cold. It's only 9 degrees Celsius, so I'm actually drinking a coffee. Check out my mug, by the way. How cool is this mug? I love it. I think Chantel bought it for me. My son's wife bought me this for Father's Day, I think, but I love it. It's cool, isn't it? And people are talking about my T-shirt. If you're looking at this T-shirt, as Kerry said when I put it on this morning, this is peach. So it is actually a peach T-shirt, guys. This is not pink. If you're actually seeing pink with this T-shirt, focus. If you're actually seeing pink with this T-shirt, you need some serious monitor calibration, because I can tell you this matches my lovely skin. Oh, I love it. Some people are in there already saying things about it being pink, peach. It's not peach, it's guava. Oh, you guys are shocking. Oh, I'm just putting out the comments over here that down the bottom, they're already saying things like it's pink and Susie's hat will suit you with that shirt. Oh, I love you guys. Now, before I start, don't forget to subscribe to our Facebook page, the Photography and Videography School. It's a great place where I'm allowing you to share anything for your business. So make sure you do join us on that site. There's about 1,500 people on there now, so it's fantastic. So please join us on that site. And it's also a place where you can share your work, you can share your business pages, you can share your videos. I really encourage you to share everything on there. Put your Instagram stuff on there, do everything. Unlike a lot of other Facebook pages out there where there's limitations, there's no limitations on there at all. I'd love you to share whatever you can to promote your business and all work together. It's a very positive place. The only thing you can't do is do a live broadcast to it. That's the only thing I'm basically saying. So please join us in there. Now, don't forget too that if you are in Australia and you want to fly down, or if you're in Melbourne, definitely, next Sunday, not this one coming, the 10th, we're having a meet-up in Melbourne. We're going to go to ACDC Lane, and that's the lane where you saw Rebecca, where I shot Rebecca the other day. It's an amazing location, and we're going to spend 2 hours there roughly. We're going to meet there at 3 p.m. on Sunday afternoon on the 10th, and we're going to photograph Kiara. Kiara's going to be there. We're going to photograph Kiara all around that lane. So I'd love you to pop down on the day. It's going to be a fantastic meet-up. and we're going to have a ball just shooting around this lane, all of us together. So, you know, let me know anyway if you're intending to come. But we're going to meet at 3 p.m. at ACDC Lane in Melbourne on Sunday the 10th. So please join us there. And for my overseas viewers, I definitely intend to do something with you next year as well. So I'm looking forward to doing that as well, because I'd love to basically meet you guys and do some great things with you as well. So I will have something to announce about that later on this year, but I'll definitely be doing something with you guys as well. So anyway, let us know if you're going to come. There'll be Kiara will be there, I'll be there, obviously Kerry will be there, Ben's another one that you've seen who we had a quick chat with here before will be there, and hopefully a stack of you guys will show up too. So I'd love to see you all there, and that's just a thank you to say for the 10,000 subscribers. So, you know, I'd love to see you all there. I'm just looking down here too. Strata said I will be there in Melbourne. Hopefully I'll get my Tamron 2475 by then. Else we'll use my 7200. Great, yeah. And definitely bring your cameras, guys. It'll be fantastic. I'm going to bring some lighting for you to use, probably just ice lights and stuff like that. But, you know, I'll take you through the shoot and you can all have a shoot and grab some images of Kiara as well. So it's going to be fantastic. So really looking forward to it. Tag the shooter, are you paying for overseas flight for the 10th? I'd love to be able to do that. All right, now let me come down. So I'm going to take you through some of these things. Actually, I'll do it now because that was just a pre-show. So what are we on? 640. All right, so let's get stuck into some of what's going on. I want to actually discuss the Tamron lens with you all and talk about the firmware update and things like that as well. Keep going with the questions. Oh, by the way, guys, too, if you want to get my attention, see how some have got at David Oastler. That's what you do in the chat, because I'd love to. I'm just reading about Peachy and stuff down there. If you want to make my attention, I am going to give time at the end to come back to questions. So please put your questions in, and then we'll come back. And it can be related to anything you'd like to know. And, you know, these are always long shows, and that's just the way it is. If you don't like that, tune out, turn off. It's just really about me communicating with you, like, you know, mates getting together and having a chat. So they are a bit long. If you don't like them being long, don't watch. Anyway, so let's get back to this lens that I was talking about. So I wanted to talk to you about my feelings about the Tamron, and now that I've put up a few videos about it. Geez, I'm going to warm up again. The interesting thing was, it was quite interesting because I had a few comments in the things when I posted some videos, and they were accusing me of lying. It was cracking me up, and getting paid to put up those things about the lens. I don't know what it is about some people that they think everyone is basically paid to do something. And I always commented back to these people when I was reviewing the Tamron lens, I can only review the lens that I was given. Now, that lens was loaned to me from Tamron, but there was no discussion about that I had to give it a good review. They actually said nothing. They said, yes, just do whatever you like with it, David, and just post what you wanted. To be honest, I wouldn't have taken that lens if there was any stipulations on it that I had to give it a glowing report, because it would just come back and bite me, and I'd be stupid if all these other people were out there saying, like Jason and that one camera guy was saying there was issues. I'd be stupid to come out and say there's no issues with that lens at all. And all I could say to people was that the lens that I had, obviously, is a really good lens. Now, there must be some variations that are out there with this lens, because, and I will talk about this shortly, but Tamron have even said that they're going to release a firmware update. So there obviously is issues with that lens. But I can tell you from my perspective, if this update makes all of those lenses exactly the same as the one I've got, the lens is incredible, and it's absolutely outstanding. And you've seen, I've held nothing back. I mean, I've tried to do everything for these trolls out there that are saying I'm lying. I've put out, and I'm going to go all through this, but I've put out video tests. I've put out video tests of the focusing being done. I've put out the camera, the stills image focusing being done. I've done a full video of Kiara in video that's doing basically everything from macro photography to just showing leaves and trees. I've tried to do everything possible to show that that lens, for me, is unbelievable. And it actually is unbelievable the way that its focus is incredibly quick. It's very sharp, incredibly light. I actually put it onto the video that you're going to see, and I'm going to go through all this stuff with you shortly, but the video that you're going to see, I use this, and this is the Moser Aircross. And again, I'm not sponsored by Moser Aircross, so for God's sake, no one carry on saying I'm sponsored by them. I paid for this out of my own money. This is the Moser Air that I used, and it worked brilliantly on it with the a7iii and the 28 to 75 Tamron lens. It was brilliant, and I really liked it. So it worked great. So that's the thing with that. So it does work fantastic, and I'm going to talk about the DJI later. We'll have a discussion about that. But having that lens being so light is really good to use for video, and it might have changed my mind about what I use. I'm not really, like I said, a shooter of zoom lenses, but I am now tempted, after looking at the footage that I did of Kiara, to actually get the 28 to 75 to stick on the gimbal, because it does work. Look, I love the 55 as well, because I love shooting that at 1.8. But having that lens to be able to zoom in and out and still shoot at 2.8 and get decent depth of field was really good to use, and it wasn't too heavy on that gimbal. But, you know, and that's why I just wanted to say to you that it works so well for me. And I can only discuss how the lens actually works for me. And if you look online, there are a number of people that are saying that there's no issues at all. Obviously, others have got issues. So if you are thinking about getting one, well, then you might want to wait and just see what this firmware does for people that are having issues, if it fixes it. But clearly, if you've got a lens like I've got, it would be a keeper. I'm just spewing that I've got to send it back. So I would actually like to keep it. Now, I asked Tamron if I could keep it a bit longer, because I wanted to actually try and do some more testing next week. But unfortunately, I can't. I think it's in that hot demand that I've got to send it back. So, you know, what I'm going to do over the weekend, I'll probably do it tomorrow, is I'll give a full review of it. So I'll talk about how I've used it. Now, I've used it really for over a week now, and I've used it extensively, so I can talk about it quite comfortably. So I will do a full review that you'll see online fairly soon. But let's go over some of the images anyway, because I thought I'll take you through just quickly some of the shots and the video that I did. And basically, actually, we'll go back to here. These were just ones that you've seen. That's an added thing to what I showed you in with Kiara inside that video. And basically, and I know you're not going to see this, because someone said to me the other day, they were talking about the image that I did with Rebecca in AC/DC lane, and YouTube compression, particularly what I show you now, is only, I think it's only 1080i that this the program, when you're uploading to YouTube, will allow me to do. So it's a bit of an issue, and that can be a problem that you're not seeing it as actually I'm seeing it. But I'm going to show you anyway, and I'll tell you that the images are pin sharp. So these were the images that I took, and it will show you basically that this was shot at 63mm. You can't see the things because it's just the way the screen grab was done. And it's 1/400th of a second, but this is at 2.8 ISO, so you can see the rendering's quite lovely in the background, and the images actually are really sharp. Now, it's probably not going to come up on YouTube for you guys to see it actually how they are. These are straight out of camera, so they're basically the JPEGs straight out of camera. And really, you know, I'm really happy with how sharp they actually came. I was using iDetect, and I'll take you through this in a minute, and you can actually have a look to see what they're actually like. But the rendering's really quite nice from that lens too. The color is really lovely. And the iDetect worked fantastic. You know, it really did work amazingly sharp. You can see even on the hair and everywhere how sharp the lens actually is. These haven't had sharpening done to them at all yet. These were just the raws that I took out of the camera. You can see that they're all lovely and sharp. And the thing was, I wanted to do was I had Kiara also walking and things where, Lightroom's just quit. I won't open it back up. But you can see that basically it was lovely and sharp. Just let me ignore that. That's interesting, isn't it? Lightroom just quit. So they were lovely and sharp, and that's the thing about the whole thing with those images, that the rendering was really nice. The sharpness was fantastic. It really is sharp, and it's super fast. Now, if you look at the actual focus itself, let's go over here, and I'm just going to see if I can find this one, and I'll play through this that you can have a look at, because you'll see through here that I'm going to hope that nothing's all crashed now. I think it might have. Oh no, it's working. I thought it had crashed. And you can see here that really it is super fast in keeping up with Kiara. Now, I was shooting when I actually did this, and you'll see if you watch that video that I've actually posted that it was really fast in tracking her around. And it clearly is just as fast in as what I'd be using with my Sony lenses. It really is super quick. The last time that I did this test, I couldn't do it and take photos. What you're looking at there is the JPEGs that came directly off the camera when I was shooting it, and just pausing, and it just takes the JPEGs. But as she jumps back in, you'll see how fast that it does actually lock onto her. It's almost instant. Like these new Sony cameras, like the a7 III, the a7R III, and the a9, it's insane now in how fast that you can actually grab focus when people are walking in and out. Like it's outstanding, and that's one thing I can say particularly about the A9 and the A7 III, is that because you got such coverage on the outsides with all the focus points, that it really does just grab in immediately. The second that they pop into the screen, it's ridiculous. And that's where I can grab things like dancers and stuff. This was just on wide area, and it immediately will grab her as she drops in. And you can see how fast it locks focus on, and really it's outstanding. And that's one of the main things that, I just wanted to say. It's just brilliant. And the thing too is I asked her then to try some different things like hop, like backwards and forwards, and you can see that she had a ball doing this because she's like a little jackrabbit. She had an absolute ball running in and out, and it really is outstanding. So that's the focus side of it. Now, I also did a video on too, that if you go on, you'll see that the video was kept... It kept up really well as well, and you can look at that because I posted the two videos. That was the still one, and I also posted a video where it was for video. So I tried to do both, and it looked amazing. But clearly, it's equally as fast as anything I've got in Sony. Maybe you're not quite as fast as the 55 because that's insane, but it's super fast that I could use it, and that really surprised me how well that focus went. So I wanted to do that test just to prove to you about how well it went. But in the video side of things, again, this was all on that gimbal, so I shot this all on the gimbal, and unfortunately YouTube compression too takes out how sharp this actually is. But the focus was just rock steady all the time. Whenever I was just shooting with this lens, it was absolutely rock steady. And it did change my thinking. Like I said, I wouldn't mind to get this now, but like all you guys, I'm going to have to wait months or weeks probably to get one. But it really is fantastic to see how it actually worked and kept focus. And like I wanted to do these tracking ones, but I also wanted to see how it held focus when Kiara walked in from the side here too, and just basically smell that flower. Here I just wanted to rack in the focus and move out, because the actual focus on this camera is almost like a macro on this lens, and that's another thing that really interests me about this for doing weddings and things, because it really is beautiful in the way that you can shoot so close to something and isolate. It's running 2.8, but the separation when you're dealing with macro type work, you can see here that I'm just walking around, you can see the focus. Now this part particularly blew me away with how close I could get up to that rose and this rose and hold focus. It was just amazing, and and I really can't overestimate how much of an advantage that would be with doing wedding videos, things like shooting the flowers and videoing that sort of stuff, and perhaps even the rings and everything else. Like, it would be outstanding for that type of shoot. And the close focus is unusual to be able to shoot so close to that type of thing. And again, I wanted to track here and see if it held Chiara. So none of these were done in manual focus. These were all done with face detect on wide area. Some of them I use center. You can see here that it's holding focus beautifully on the trees coming around. There's no focus hunting in and out. It's just amazing. And like I said, I can only talk to you about how the lens worked for me, because that's really all I can tell you at this stage. These were all shot with the standard profile. As I've said to you before, that I really love now doing standard profile for everything. And I find it's very, very easy to edit. And I just love the look of it, actually. I really do like the look of that standard profile. And there was minimal editing then that I needed to do. You just have to watch your exposure. You've just got to make sure that you really are trying to nail the exposure as close as possible. And this was in extreme sun. I did use an ND here, though. It was that fast that I wanted to keep the shutter speed decent, so I used NDs on these spots. So I did have to put that on. But, like I said, overall, I'm just wrapped with how the whole thing worked. But, I just wanted to sort of talk to you about how that worked for me. And clearly, I obviously have a lens that doesn't need this firmware update. So it's really interesting to see how there must be variations of this. Whether we got a different batch over here, I'm not sure. But anyway, let's go to the story, because I wanted to talk to you about what was going on there with this. So, Rowan, I'm going to talk about the Tamron. So they have acknowledged that there is an issue. They've made a statement basically saying down here, if you look at it through here, it's saying, "Dear Tamron product users and potential purchasers, thank you for your interest in the Tamron products." And it's saying basically there are some issues with the autofocus of our new lens, 28 to 75, for Sony E-mount users. And they're saying it's primarily when using the camera in video focusing mode. And I have heard some people say that if you start the camera up in photography mode and then you go into video, that you don't get that problem. And that's an interesting thing. So I have heard that outside there, but I haven't had that issue. It doesn't matter which way I start the lens, it doesn't have any of those issues with autofocus, with not being able to get focus or racking or whatever. So clearly, like I said, there must be variations with this lens. So I haven't got any of those issues, but they are saying that it's nearly always in the video recording mode. And it's just said, "Rest assured, we are evaluating the cause of the error and a solution to this matter will be coming soon." Now, the interesting thing is too that they are saying down there that it will be done through the camera. So this is what I think is going to happen. Clearly, Sony, Tamron, and probably Sigma and Sony have all worked together, and you're going to be able to, update the firmware through the camera, just like you can with the Sony lenses. So that's a really good thing. So it's not going to be like the other lenses that are out there, like what is it? I'm just trying to think oh God, I've gone blank. Anyway, the other lenses that are out there, that you have to get a dock to actually, someone might be able to tell me in the chat, you have to get a dock to actually send it off. Samyang. So if you're using Samyang, you have to send it off or either get a dock. And some places they haven't been able to get the dock, and that becomes a real issue because then you can't update the firmware. Well, the Sony lenses and these lenses, the Tamron and probably the Sigma, I think too, you're going to be able to update the firmware through the camera. So that's a really big benefit. So I suppose the thing I'm saying is, if you are thinking about getting the lens, well, you might want to hold off. I'd probably still put the pre-order in because it's going to take a while for you to even get the lens. And then and I think they will, if the issue is fixed in firmware, then the lens again is just going to be so hard to get, because the second that it's fixed and you're getting the performance like what I'm getting with that lens, which is absolutely outstanding. Honestly, it's outstanding. You would clearly be hard to get. And I do honestly think, after I've used the G Master quite a lot, actually, when I go to, I've used it in some of the camera stores extensively. I definitely wouldn't buy the G Master over this lens. I'd be buying this lens and then getting a really good prime if you get the performance like I get. And you can justify, you can look at the results that I've been getting and say, well, is that good enough for you or it's not good enough for you? And that's one of the things that you can check. But I'm honestly very happy with it. It's very sharp. The rendering's fantastic. The focus is nuts. It's insane. You know, there may be vignetting and stuff, but like me, I'm not a brick wall shooter. I don't notice it, and I haven't noticed it at all. And you've seen all my results, and I've showed you the images unedited, and you can work out whether you like that look or not, like I just showed you with Kiara. Guys, too, there's over 100 watching. Please, if you can, I'd love a thumbs up because it does make more people tune in, particularly later on. So let me know what you think about that in the chat because I'd be really curious to know what you guys think about that. But obviously they know there's a problem. I haven't had that problem, but clearly Tamron have said there is, and they're now working on a firmware fix. So I'd say it probably is more than likely going to be fixed. But if you get a lens like I've got, oh, definitely you're going to be blown away by the quality of that lens. And I noticed on Sony Alpha Rumours that they also said that, just let me move this down. Where is it? They're saying on here, I can't get that down. Oh, I'll do it here. Where are we? They're saying in here that it's going to be released in 2 weeks. Now, that's interesting. So I'm not sure where they have got that figure from. It's just saying, if you look a little bit further down, that they're saying down here also that the next stock of lenses will ship out in mid-June, according to updated B&H. So you're going to have to wait till mid-June, and that's the next stock. And clearly it's going to end up being probably 4 to 6 weeks if you don't get an order in very, very soon. And they're saying also that a trusted Tamron source told us that the new firmware will be released in 2 weeks. So 2 weeks, they're saying. So that's going to be interesting. So if that's the case, it is a pretty quick fix. And I'm not sure how accurate that is, but you just have to take that as you see it. But it'll be fantastic if that's the case for you guys that have bought the lens. And that's why I'm saying to you, it might be, if you've got the lens and there is an issue, rather than sending it back, it might be worthwhile to just wait. I'm not sure how long you have in the US to send lenses back. So it might be worthwhile just sort of seeing and what can happen with that firmware release, and if you have to send it back, send it back before the time is that you can actually send the lens back. But like I said, clearly, if that update fixes it like it has for mine, I can highly recommend it. So yeah, fantastic lens. All right, and like I said, any questions about that, guys, leave that down below because I'd love to have a chat with this shortly. So let me come up to the next one, 27. Was it 2730? All right, so next story is this, and I actually find this is quite interesting. And this might be a direct, have a direct sort of thing or consequence of when the a7S III is going to be released. And I'll talk about that in a minute with the next story. But Sony have just announced this new EVF, and they're basically saying, if you look down here, they're actually saying that the model name's there. Now, I'll put these links for you down below, so you will be able to check these links down below later on. But they're saying that there is a sample shipment date already out, and that's clearly where they're getting these samples down below that I'll talk about in a minute. But they're basically saying that the sample shipment date is January 2018, and the mass production shipment date planned when it starts producing is November 2018. And it's 50,000 Japanese yen or whatever it is. So the interesting thing is that they're saying that it's November, so this might have a thing about stopping the a7S III from being released, because I've got a feeling that this EVF is probably going to be used in the a7S III. Now, I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I'll talk about that in a minute. Now, if you're looking at this EVF, the one on the left-hand side over here is this high-res EVF. Now, you're probably not going to be able to see it that much on YouTube, but it is quite a hell of a lot better than what the one on the right is, which is the EVF that they're doing now. But, and obviously they're talking down here that it's going to have nearly double the frame rate. It's 240 frames per second. It's double the frame rate of the current EVFs. And I found like the A9 and the A7, the A9 particularly and the A7 III, the EVF are great. So if they're talking now that this is double that sort of resolution, these are going to be fantastic for really having almost a lifelike view through your EVF. They're also saying lower power consumption as well. It's basically the same, but it's 1.6 times the increase of the number of pixels, but it's using the same power. So that, again, you're not going to have any drain on the battery, excuse me, or anything else. And it really does look like it's going to be amazing EVF. And it's a 5.6 million dot EVF with 240 frames per second. And they're saying here perfect for the A7S III. Now, if you look at the next story, which is what is interesting. What are we on here? 39, 30, 20. If you look at the next story, this manager was saying it's coming soon and it's going to have the same identity. And I want to talk to you about that in a minute. But if you look at this thing down here, the last two, it says that the A7S III is maybe coming soon. I mean, I don't know. Everyone's been saying that anyway, but it's the most hidden secret, even for internal Sony teams. The A7S III will keep the same identity, low-resolution sensor, and extremely low-light capabilities. High ISO are more important than oversampling. So what that's telling me, if you read that article, is that it's not going to have a similar sensor to the A9 and the A7 III because they oversample from 6K down to 4K. So I think they're going to sacrifice that part of the video resolution for ISO. So this is going to be a different sensor, I think. So they're going to go more for low light than to have the oversampling, so it's a different way of tackling this camera. But looking at the that EVF, I think Sony probably would be silly not to have that EVF in that camera. Now, if that's the case, you may find that they have a pre-production model of this at NAB, and then obviously if this is not going into manufacturing into November, which is what they said it will be, you're probably not going to see this released until early next year. Looking at that, now I've now got a feeling that that is what's probably going to happen, because I can't see Sony now releasing the A7S III without that new EVF inside it. It would be silly, because if that EVF is actually available from November, you're not going to have to wait much longer at all to get that into that camera, and that could be the real difference, say, between an A7S III and the A7 III and the A7R III. Now remember, the A7S III is particularly for video. If you're manually focusing, having that EVF in that camera would be outstanding, because that's one of the issues with the A7 III. The EVF really is not good enough if you're doing manual focusing. It's not sharp enough, and I've noticed that with the A7 III. The A9 is by far easier to do manual focusing if you're dealing with using pixel peep, zooming in and being able to look sharp at the image. So that's one really important thing about that. So that's why I think now that it's going to be announced in NAB. Obviously, they've already said that there's a pre-production version of that, because they said that in that last article down here, when it was talking about that there's already a sample shipment date is January 2018. So they clearly could have one of those EVFs in the camera to show at NAB. But like I said, it doesn't start mass production until November. So clearly, if it starts mass production in November, they're not going to be in the camera at least until December or January, something like that. So anyway, that's what I now think is going to happen with that. But at least it's given us an idea about what's going to happen, and that really can make that A7S III different to what the A7 III is. And I was wondering about what they might do for that. And that really could be a game changer, particularly for manual focusing and for video as well. So interesting. Anyway, so I thought I'd discuss that with you all. Let's go to the next. And I will fire over the questions, guys, because we will pop back at that later on. 34... 15. Next story is this. And this is interesting. Remember I spoke to you a while ago about Sony lenses. There's a new patent out and it discloses a 500 f4 and a 600 f4 E-mount lens. Again, if you are worried about Sony not having sports lenses, that is certainly going to change. And, you know, they're just going to add more and more lenses. I think what Sony have given us in lenses over the recent 12 months, 2 years has been outstanding when you think how new Sony is. And clearly, if you are holding back because you're into wildlife or sports, things are going to change because you can see here that there's a patent already out. I mean, they already have the 100 to 400 and there's the 400 out already, but now they're talking about a 500 and 600 E-mount lens as well. So again, it's just good times if you're shooting Sony. You know, and if you have got into the system now and you're being held back by these lenses, well, excuse me, it's only a matter of time until that changes. Okay, so next story. Sigma. This really interests me, actually. I mean, it really does. I mean, I'm dying to have a try of this lens. So they're announcing the price and the ship date of the 105. Now, unfortunately, it says on here that the Sony version is going to be later. So we're going to have to wait, I think, to get the Sony version of this lens. But it's $1,600 United States dollars. I thought it would have been way dearer than that. I really thought it would have been over 2,000. I'm surprised. I was guessing around about 2,100, something around there. So it really is, I mean, look, it's still a lot of money, but it's a pretty good value, I think, for that type of lens, which is a specialty lens. And I really am interested in trying this lens out. I'd probably prefer this, I think I might prefer this lens than 135, but I'm not sure until I try both lenses. When Sigma have got the 135 out for Sony and also this, I want to rent both and then try them both out and then make a decision which one I'll buy. But being able to shoot 105 at 1.4 would be incredible, and I'm dying to try this out in a portrait type session or something like that. But it's actually saying in here that, where was I reading the availability? Oh, down here. It's saying the lens will be available for Canon, Nikon and Sigma mounts in late June for $15.99 through authorized US dealers. Excuse me. The Sony E-mount availability will be announced later. So I'm hoping that we don't have to wait too long, but they're not even giving us a date at this stage, which is a bit disappointing. I was hoping that we'd be on the same timeline as Canon and Nikon and Sigma users. So the only thing is, if you wanted to get it, I suppose, is you could get the Sigma version and then use the adapter. But we are going to have to wait for it. But let me know, too, in the live chat whether any of you guys are interested in this. I'm certainly interested in looking at this lens. I really am dying to try it out, actually. I'm dying to try this with the 135 and the 105 Sigma lenses, do a comparison between both of them. So hopefully I'll be able to get both of them, video it, and put it on YouTube and show you guys, excuse me, how they all work out. But let me know in the live chat whether that really interests you. Okay, next story. What time are we on? 38. All right, so next story is DJI Ronin. I just wanted to talk to you about this one because a few of you I've seen are interested in this new gimbal that's coming out. And I was surprised. I actually thought this would have been dearer than what it actually is. And they really have probably thrown it out to a lot of the other manufacturers out there. Came probably maybe a little bit overpriced if you look at what this is being offered for $6.99. It does have a lot of attachments and things like that as well. So it's $6.99 now. I think it's just up for, it's released in limited quality. And it's saying July the 2nd. So if you do want to get it, you'd want to have it on pre-order. There's a few reviews around there about it now. But it looks like really quite a nice, gimbal if you look at it. I don't think any of the focusing is going to work with Sony, obviously, unless you buy the attachments. But I do love the way you've got the angle at the back. that's really nice because it doesn't block your screen. The Moza Air that I've got, this one, well, it does block the screen, just like the Kame gimbals do. I love this though because of the way it auto-calibrates. I just love the way you can just put different things on and then it auto-calibrates to it, and it's so easy to use, and I love it. That's the best gimbal I've ever used. But you know, I'd love to have a go at one of these and just try it and to see how it works. But it seems like it's really nice. But I do love that 45-degree slant, because if you're looking at that, you can see the screen really easily without having to move the screen out or whatever. So I do really like that 45-degree slant that's there. I must admit though, having seen it, that I do think it may be a bit big for me, and that's what I don't know. You could put a really big camera and a really big lens on this. I wouldn't want to go with this much past, like I said, using that the 16 to 35 f1.4 Sony lens I can use on this. The Tamron worked fantastic because it was nice and light, like 550 grams with the a7S III or the A9. Works great. And it's nice and small in the actual gimbal. So, you know, I like that aspect of that. Looking at the DJI gimbal, it's actually quite large. So if you wanted to shoot larger glass, like the 24-70 G Master, lenses like that, this probably would be a great choice for you. But it does interest me to try it out. I mean, I really would like to try it out, but it's got some nice features. But it is quite a large gimbal. But let me know whether any of you guys are seriously thinking about moving over to the DJI, because I'd love to know what you think about that. But it is available for pre-order now, and it's $6.99. All right, so let's go over to questions. 41:15. Because I'd love to know what you guys have asking questions about. So let's go over here. All right, so let's scroll back. Everyone was just saying hi early on. Just let me have a quick drink. A bit coffee this morning. Stratus is saying he'll be in Melbourne for the meetup. I can't wait to meet people there. I'm really looking forward to meeting you guys. So hopefully a lot of you can actually come. I'll bring some chips and drinks. Thanks, mate, so much. Took a snap of it with my A7 III. Colour Science confirms it's peachy t-shirt. They're talking about this. I said it's not pink, it's peachy. Tony Brown said, have you ever used the Sony 12 to 24? If yes, what was you? No, I haven't yet. I must get a grab of that lens and try it out, because I would like to give that a go, Tony. I really would like to try that. But no, I haven't even connected that to a camera yet. So I would like to give it a go, though. Cactus said, conspiracy theory is a popular habit these days. I think it was talking about people saying I was lying about how good the Tamron was. Richard's just saying hi. Carl saying hi. Nuno said, I'm hesitant between the Tamron 28 to 75 and the Sigma Art 35 versatility versus aperture. I already have the 85. Yeah, look, it's a tough one. It is a tough one. If you've already got the 85, you can't go wrong with just getting the 75, the 35, which is how I always shoot. I'm shooting 35 and 75. I really would like to get that lens though, now that I've used it like I have. Like I said, to stick on a gimbal would be fantastic and use for video, and I'm seriously thinking about that later on. But you can't go wrong with the 35 and 85 focal length, Nuno. Little Ray Blue needs his monitor calibrated because he's saying it's salmon. Gene's saying rose. I love it. Roy said, hi David, are you still going to organise a shoot with friends? Yes, that's on the Sunday the 10th, Roy. So we're going to meet in ACDC Lane, Sunday the 10th at 3 p.m. So we'd love to see you there. Kiara will be there, so you'll all be able to grab a photo of Kiara. Mario said, I know that the situation with the Tamron 2875 could be a big issue for some that trusted previous reviews, but I must disagree. The little blue that the shirt is salmon. Oh dear. Tamron is For a wedding? Yeah, good, yes. Definitely good for a wedding. After I've used it, I wouldn't hesitate using that for a wedding. It's still not going to change the way that I shoot. I will still be shooting with my 35 and the 85 because it's what I love to do. But I certainly would love to have that in my arsenal, particularly for shooting video. I'd love that lens on camera for video shooting, particularly. Having that lens on something like an a7S III would be unbelievable. So I probably will get it sooner or later down the line. Keep up the great work. Thanks so much. Ben's here. G'day, Ben. How you going? We'll see Ben at Melbourne on the 9th as well. Mick, you've reviewed the Fossicam several weeks ago. Is the Mozzie Aircross better? I prefer the Mozzie Aircross. Yes, look, I still love the Fossicam though, Mick. There's no issue with that gimbal at all. I still really like it. But I just love the way the Mozzie Aircross balances stuff when you put it on it. It's so good the way it works and the way it balances itself. The app is fantastic. The remote control is also great. So there's little things about that work really good for me. She has hair in the right eye. Yeah, I know. Talking about when I showed Kiara's images, they were sharp. Like I said, and if you saw them here, they're much sharper than what you guys will be looking at there. Amazing detail even for YouTube Live. Mick said months ago, not weeks ago, sorry. I'm not sure what that means. A-Rose said, hey David, first live session, great to see you here. Just wanted to say huge thanks to both you and Kiara for the Tamron autofocus test. Thanks so much, and I'm glad you liked that. Chris said, the videos came out great and that lens is sharp, fast and awesome. I have to agree. Mario said, seriously, how about the people not pros that buy the lens but will never know the lens may not be working properly? What could they do? I know, I suppose, Mario, that could be a case for that as well. I'm hoping that the word gets out there for people that don't know it's an issue. But to be honest, they probably won't be looking for the issue either. And most of the time, the things that they're going to be shooting is going to be in autofocus. The things that, like when you were looking at what Jason were doing and the one camera guy, they were almost trying to force that issue sometimes. So most people probably aren't going to notice that problem at all that aren't pros. And remember too that a lot of the number out there of issues, you only ever hear about the problems. You never hear about the camera or the lens being really good. And so if you're looking at the overall marketplace, there's probably way more of them that have got lenses like I have that are good than what are problems. You'll always hear about the problems, but you very rarely hear about it being good. Hope's just saying hi. Creative Films just saying hi as well. Any tips on finding models for your videos? So you're looking for models? Well, what you can do is just basically advertise on one of the modeling groups on Facebook. That's actually where I got Rebecca. When I'm testing lenses, there's no way known I'm going to be paying or making girls pay for the lenses, or pay for the reviews and things like that. So I just put a call out on one of the modeling groups. If you've got good enough work, you'll get models that are contacting you. And like I said, most of my model shoots that you see are paid. Just lately though, like I've been doing, like I did Rebecca, and I did another girl the other day that I've used from advertising to get people in. And I may start doing that a little bit more because it's interesting to get that, and then I can choose basically who I want to work with. So if you're after that, it is good to get work behind you. And what you might have to do is, if you haven't got any really nice work that you can show, you might have to hire a model, because that at least will get you a portfolio that you can build up. Because the first thing these girls are going to do is they're going to look at your work. So you've got to have enough work in the background to say, yes, she'd like to work with you. So there's no point going to one of these modeling groups and saying, yes, I'd love to shoot with someone. The second they look at your work and they see there's nothing there, they're not going to want to hire you. So it might be that you have to invest in yourself and pay for a model to work with you and get some nice shots. Once you've done that and you've got a decent workload, you will get models in that will want to work with you. Creative Film said, not feeling the bokeh rendering of this lens, and that's basically subjective, and I understand that completely, Creative Films. You either like the look or you don't, and I don't mind it at all. But like I said, art is art, and we all see different things. I really like the rendering, but like I said, it's all personal. Photo for Mac said, David, will you change the time for those live shows in the future? It's middle in the night here in Europe. Yeah, it's pretty hard, Photo for Mac. Sometimes I do try and give these reviews at different times, particularly through my Facebook channel. So you're probably better off to go into that, and I do pop in live there later in the day, which will suit more if you're in Europe and the UK. So you're probably better off to be in the photography and videography school. It's hard to find time around this time. It's perfect for me because it's sort of morning then before I go out and do things. I do try and vary it sometimes though. Oryx guys said, got my Ronin-s ordered, looks amazing. Yes, it does. Oreo's here. G'day, Oreo. How are you? He's up late. Your video quality makes me want to buy the Tamron 2875, and I really am amazed at how good that quality was. Oryx guy said, AF comments from others have scared me though, but you preach the truth. Well, I can only talk to you about how it worked for me. They're not lying, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not accusing them of lying, but I've showed you that it's working. I can't fake what I showed you. There's no way I can fake that. So, you know, it is as it is. Yeah, and I really am amazed at how good the focusing was. Gene said, I also hear my copy of the Tamron 2875 is potentially arriving in mid-June. Yeah, it's going to take a while to get them, I think. Hopefully the fix will be out by then, Gene. Stratus said, yeah, the Ronin looks sweet. I'll probably buy it next month. Let me just keep going down. Casper, Rowan said that Rowan looks awesome. Yes, it does, Ben. I agree. Casper said pink. Oh, I love it. See, Ben, you'd need something like that probably for your camera. The Nikon digital SLRs are much heavier. Jeremiah said, what kind of webcam are you streaming with? I'm using the a6-500 with the 24 1.8 Sony lens. Lance said, hello, and everyone from SOCA back to crazy coloured shirts, I see. Thanks for the suggestions concerning the Batis 18 and the Loxia 21, now considering the Batis. Yeah, look, both are great lenses, Lance, but the Batis has the benefit of having the autofocus, so if you're dealing with that, the Batis is amazing. Bulldog said, I got my Tammy today. Yes. Be interested to see how you find it. Bulldog said, thanks for accepting my friend request in Facebook. No problem. Dr. Exclusive said, I pre-ordered it the second day it came out, but still didn't receive any. Yeah, there's nothing you can do about it. You've just got to wait. It's just the way it is. It'll come. All good things come to those who wait. Jess said, I just ordered my Zeiss Loxia 51 f1 manual lens, and together with my Tokina 20mm f2 lens, there will be a combination I use and really enjoy my photography by myself. That's fantastic, Jess, and what great lenses, gorgeous lenses that you've got there, you know, and it's going to be fantastic for you. You'll love it. Ryan said, hi David, love your video on the Tamron. Thank you so much, Ryan. I really appreciate that, guys. Really appreciate the support you guys are giving me. Oreo said, the pro's using the Tamron lens without being aware of the bug. I'm also a pro. I never use new equipment for a paid session. And that's true, Oreo, you shouldn't. And that's why I didn't charge anyone doing those tests. I'd never, ever do that. Shaku said, beamed you on my TV via Chromecast. You could be in Australia. Villain for a friendly... a villain in a friendly family movie. I love it. Glad you're seeing me in the big screen. Mick, is it possible that the focusing on power works well but not on NTS? Maybe, Mick? Don't know. Not sure. Could be possibility though, because I was shooting in PAL. If I order the a7 III, I wonder how long it'll take to get it. You're going to be waiting a while, I think. You're probably going to be waiting about 6 weeks. Ben said, we are trying to move away from sliders at work. I think the Ronin might be a great alternative. Yeah, Ben's doing real estate, so I could understand why he's thinking that. And the funny thing was that when I did that video with Kiara the other day, the one that you saw in the Rose Garden and stuff like that, I usually take tripods and do all that sort of stuff, and I shot that whole thing with the Aircross. The whole thing was done with that. And I was amazed how well it went, actually. with the stabilization of the, and I don't turn stabilization off, some will probably say you should, but with the stabilization of the camera plus the gimbal, the Moser Aircross nailed that, and I had so much usable footage that I could actually grab just walking around with that. And I thought I would do that deliberately as a minimal setup, and it was fantastic. It was almost liberating that all I moved in was with just the gimbal, the camera, the lens, and didn't take it off for the whole shoot, for the whole day. And I loved it. It was just so good not to be bringing in tripods and everything else. It was so good. What else have we got? Dr. Exclusive said, what about the DJI Ronin? Well, we discussed that a minute ago. I'd like to try it, but I think it's going to be too heavy for me. It is really heavy. Like I said, the reason why I love this so much is the size of it. It really is beautiful and small. You know, I mean, remember I'm doing fusion, which means I'm holding this plus a camera at the same time. So being able to hold in one camera the gimbal like this, and then in the other hand, I'll be walking around like this. Oh, look, there's a Tamron. On the other lens like this, you know, it's just great. And having this actually on the actual gimbal works fantastic. You know, it's nice and small. You know, it's not too big to hold. So that's one of the things that, for me, is a real plus of having something like that Aircross or a Came, or one of the other gimbals that are out there. But I think the DJI may be a little bit heavy for me, but I'd like to try it just to see how it works. But yeah. John said, love the videos. Thanks for all you do. Thanks so much, John. Really appreciate that. Ben said, that's all good for me. I'm strong. Yeah, Ben's a young, fit boy, Oreo, so I'm sure he'd be able to handle it. I often get Ben to carry around my stuff. I'm thinking, oh, it's all heavy, and Ben's just lugging around like no problem. No, I mean timing-wise, what is expected? Do you mean to get it shipped? Is that what you're talking about, the Ronin? Oh, yeah, you're going to wait a while, I think. Well, they're already saying, I think, July. July the 11th is the next shipment. So if you order now, you may get it July the 11th. If you wait, you're just going to have to, it'll be a lot longer. So I'd put an order in now if you're wanting to get it. If you have to choose between the Tamron 28-75 and the 24-105, which one would you take? Oh, I'd probably take the 28-75, but now for video, that's me though. But if you're traveling, see, this is where it gets really hard, because if you the best all-around travel lens, I think for Sony, is that 24-105, because it's a brilliant lens. That is a great lens. Nice and wide, and you've got a great reach. So I think if you're talking about that aspect, you can't go wrong with the 24-105 if you're dealing with an all-around lens. If you're basically wanting to do like what I did, have it on a gimbal, the video and all this other stuff, and shoot at 2.8, I think the Tamron is probably a better bet. It's a hard decision to make. The price of the Tamron that they're asking for that really is a hard thing to decide, because if you're thinking about it, you can get the Tamron and another lens. It's really hard to decide. You really have to make that decision up yourself. I'd probably get the Tamron 28-75, but that's me. But then if I was dealing with travel, I'd love the 24-105. That's all I can really say. Angel said, are you growing hair? Am I? I should shave. I didn't shave this morning. And I've got that Metro look on me. Do you like the look? It's pretty hot. Ben said, I love the idea of being able to see the LCD. Yeah, no, that's a handy, Ben. And that's what I could see in the Fossey Cam. It is really good to see the LCD screen. Jess said, continue with your test with Sony equipment because your opinion means a lot to many, David. Thanks so much, Jess. Kevin said, hey, David, I liked your original video in the AC/DC alley. Could you do more videos of yourself doing photo shoots and explaining what you're doing? It's very useful for new photographers. Yeah, I will be. There'll be a few more. I've got a couple more of Kiara I've still got to post. I'll be posting some more next week of that, Kevin. So you will see more of those coming up soon. Yarra Valley Insight said, thoughts on the Glide Cam? Which one? I'm just wondering which one you're actually wanting to know, Yarra Valley. Mario said, off topic, what would be the best ultra-wide angle lens for the a7 III? I don't have a huge budget. That's, you know what, Mario, that's the thing that I'm still researching myself. I'm still looking for a really nice wide angle lens. And it's hard to say because the 12, where were we talking before? The 12, I think it was, who was it that asked that question? The 12 to 24 is a great lens if you wanted a wide angle zoom. It's hard to say how wide you want to go, you know, and it's tough. And I'm researching that at the moment. Someone may be able to recommend something in the wide chat. I can't really recommend anything. Or the only one I use, or the two I use at the moment for wide angle, is the 16 to 35 f4 and the 10 to 18 f4. They're the only wide angle lenses that I've actually got at the moment. So I'm researching some myself to see what I'll get in the future. So I'm just not sure. I'm not going to recommend something that I haven't used, so I can't really answer that at this stage. What else have we got? You're talking about the glide cam manual cam. Is that what you're talking about, Yarra Valley? I used to have one and I found it hard to use. That was the issue with that. You know, I much prefer gimbals. It's so much easier. What else? Greetings from Puerto Rico. Nice to see you here, Mikkel. Vegan said, love this channel. I'm entering photography and videography, learning from you. Thank you so much for supporting me on here. Lance said, smash the like, peeps. Thanks so much, Lance. Vegan Chaser said, will I be good for wedding portraits with Tamron 28 to 7? The 28 to 75 and the 85 1.8 Sony. Yes, you would actually, but you probably will need something a little bit wider, Vegan. You could probably, like I said, I nearly can shoot a whole wedding with the 35 to 85. And I can do 90% of a wedding with just those two lenses. There is occasions, though, where I'll need to go wider than that. And that would be the worry for me. If you're dealing with shooting a wider scenario, like what happens if you need to step back and you can't fit the bride in a changing room that she's in a beautiful room, and you can't step back far enough? That's where I'll use my 16, or occasionally I'll go to the 10. The 10 to 18 millimeter to get even wider. So you will need something wider than that. So that's something you may consider. You've already got the 85 covered in the 28 to 75 mil, almost, except for it's not a 1.8. But you definitely will need something wider than that, definitely, in that aspect. And you may need something faster in case if there's not enough light, ambient light, and that's where I'll often go to the 35 1.4. Depending on lighting conditions that you're dealing with wedding receptions and things like that. So, yes, you could use a 28 to 75, but you will need something definitely wider. What else have we got? Mario said, consider Voigtlander. Voigtlander's fantastic. I love using Voigtlander. Again, only manual focus though, but they're beautiful lenses. Ben said, ideally for anything architectural, you'd want a tilt shift, maybe adapt to Canon, but it's not a cheap exercise. Yep, I agree for architectural, definitely. What wide angle lens would you recommend fully male? Well, we just talked about that a minute ago. Vegan said, okay, I still have, oh, well, you've got the 12 mil. Okay, yep, that's fine. So as long as you've got that wide mil, you know, but remember, 12 mil on the A6 500 may not be wide enough because you've got to multiply that by 1.6. What else have we got? Little Blue Eye said, I'm looking for something wide to go with the 28-75. Yep, me too. I'd love a fast wide angle lens. You know, some 14 mil, something like that. 12 mil, possibly 12 mil, maybe something great. Something like a Zeiss lens or something or whatever. Mike said 189 for the LED light stick. Yeah, I saw that, Mike. I wonder what the quality's like. It's going to be interesting to see what that is like when it actually comes out. Definitely a lot cheaper than what I'm using, the ice lights, though. Again, I just adore the ice lights, though. I'm just a bit worried about all those other lights, how soft they are, but I'd have to test them and just see. David said the Samyang 14 2.8 and the A6 500 is great value. Otherwise, there is a Zeiss Batis 18, but it's definitely more expensive. Yeah, it is. You get what you pay for, though, remember, with a lot of those lenses. That 14mm 2.8 autofocus Rocky-On, I haven't used yet, and I'd like to try that to see what it's like, and that's one I was considering looking at. The thing is, I'll never recommend anything that I actually haven't tried, Angel, so I can't recommend it if I haven't tried it. And that's the thing for me. I'm never going to say to someone, yes, get that, if I haven't actually used it. And it's something certainly that I would like to look at. I just haven't had the time to even think about checking them out at this stage. So it will be something that I'll look at in the future, depending on which way I'll go. All right, guys, questions are starting to drop off, so I'll just wait a couple of minutes to see more. Don't forget, I will advertise again next week, but don't forget that the Sunday live shoot is going to happen at ACDC Lane if you're in Australia and you'd like to fly down, or meet us or whatever if you're from local photographers. So please join us down there. We will be shooting Kiara around that ACDC Lane, having a ball for a couple of hours. It starts at 3 p.m, so we'll sort of have that twilight look. It's going to be amazing. Mario said, good thing about the Voigtlander is that they provide EXIF data to the A7. That is important if you are buying a manual lens. Most manufacturers do not provide EXIF. That's a good actual thing to say there, Mario. That is a good suggestion. Vincent said, any major complaints on the Aircross? Can't decide between the Zishin Crew VT or the Aircross. No complaints at all, Vincent. It's fantastic. And like I said, I'm talking to you from not being sponsored. I paid for that myself. If that broke, I'd buy another one tomorrow. That's how much I love that Aircross. It really is a beautiful gimbal to use. Got the replaceable batteries. The other thing too that don't forget, and I've got the actual attachment inside there. One of the differences is that this is the only one. There may be others, I don't know. But this is the only one where it will take the Manfrotto in here, but I use Arca Swiss. So they give you a little attachment that fits inside that top part of the gimbal so that the Arca Swiss doesn't need adapters in it. So it's the only one I've been able to use where I don't have to get all these different adapters, because I use Arca Swiss for everything. And that gimbal has that attachment on it, and it's not basically straight away going to other adapters. It's using the Arca Swiss by putting that little adapter inside it. It's fantastic. And I use that all the time, and it really is great for me. And like I said, I'd buy that again tomorrow. What else have we got? Dragon said, finally got a chance to catch you live. Glad you're in here live. Ben said, can I have a lift on Sunday? Probably, Ben. It just depends if I'm taking Kiara. Oh, no, you will be able to, because I can fit 3 in the back. Yep, you're fine. I can give you a lift. What else have we got? So, yes, I would buy the Aircross over the Crane V2. Definitely, for me, personally. I love the remote control. Is amazing for it. The remote control works great. It'll even mimic what you do with your hand as you move. The auto calibration is outstanding. And I've also got the Arca Swiss adapter that comes with it as well. It's just fantastic. David said, I own it and have got great results from it. Yeah, I love it. It's just so good. Yes, please check out the Rocky-On. Yeah, I'd like to try that one day. What about the 14 Samyang 2.8 E-mount? Haven't tried that, but I'd like to go something, probably 1.8 would be beautiful if I could get it. Loxia 18mm might be nice too. Yeah, it's hard to say which one I'll go for. Mario said, thank you, Mario. Yeah, that's nothing. Cole said, hey, David, can you go over what you know about the Tamron firmware update quick? Thanks. Well, it's going to be hopefully in 2 weeks. That's all I can say at this stage, according to Sony Alpha rumours. But the Tamron know about it, according to the things I showed earlier. You can scroll back and read it, and it'll all be on there. We had a big discussion about the Tamron lens, but hopefully in 2 weeks. Oreo said, are you happy with the IQ of the Tamron lens out of camera? No, I'm actually happy with it, Oreo. I'm actually was really surprised at how good it actually looks. Really good, actually, to be totally honest. And I showed those images early on. You might have come in a bit later. If you go back to the beginning, you'll see them, and you can have a look and just see how they look and whether you're happy with that look a lot. But yes, I am. I'm happy with straight out of the camera. Ronin-s or Ronin-m, I can't say because I haven't used either of those, but yeah, I can't say. I'd love to try the Ronin-s, but I don't know. Cole said, everyone drop a like, man. Thank you, Cole. Vegan said, I have the crane too, but it's heavy. Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't want anything, like Vegan said there, that you have to hold two handles. You can get two handles for the Motor Aircross too. I don't want to work that way. I want to work minimal. And having it as small as possible and working is what matters to me. And that's where the Aircross is so good. It really is outstanding. The Ronin-s looks good, but way too heavy, and I think that might be what I find. But I'd like to try it. Does the Loxa X 18mm provide that data? I'm not sure. That's the X if we're talking about there. Vincent said, thank you so much. Seems to have most of the features. Yes, it does. It's great. I've just bought the Ronin-s. Hope it's good. I'm sure it'll be fantastic, Elric. It's going to be a great gimbal. It just depends on whether you like to carry around that weight. If you need something that can lift a decent lens up, though, you need something with bigger motors, and that's where that will be outstanding. Vincent says Adorama has it 419 with the handles, just purchased. Which one's that one, Vincent? Is that the Aircross or... David said they just announced the follow focus for the Zhuan Crane 2. Yeah, look, I'm not even interested in that. I don't want to be doing manual focusing at all. I just want to put that thing on autofocus. And you know what? To be totally honest, the way these cameras work now, for me particularly, having autofocus like with the Tamron, with the 55 Sony, with the other Sony lenses like the 35 f2.8, oh, thank you so much, Lance. Really appreciate that. Having the autofocus now working outstanding, I don't need to be using a manual focus anymore on a gimbal. I really can't be bothered doing that. I want it to work simple. And you know what? The Sony now focusing on the a7 III and the a9 particularly, both of those cameras, it's rock solid if you're dealing with working something on a gimbal. You don't need to be moving to doing manual focus. And that's the beauty of me. I could never do my job as a videographer and still shooter at the same time if I couldn't rely on having autofocus. And that's why I sold the GH5, because the autofocus just wasn't good enough. And now that I'm doing things autofocus on these gimbals, it never lets me down, and I'm happy with that. Just check out Kiara's last video that I did, where I'm just walking around with that all done in autofocus. You can never do that dealing with a manual focus. Yeah, I might sell and look into the Aircross. I want a lighter gimbal. Yeah, it's very light. It really is a good gimbal, Vegan. Really a good gimbal. And like I said, I'm not sponsored by him. I wish I was, but I'm not. Lance, thank you so much for the donation. Really appreciate that. Carl said Loxia lenses provide the XF data. Oh, there you go. And also triggers focus magnification. Well, that's a good thing. Vincent, yes, Aircross. Any suggestions? I like the Sigma 10 to 20 mm X to use the A6 500. I use on the gimbal, if I want something wide, I'm using the 10 to 18. That's what I'm using as a wide lens on the gimbal, and it works fantastic. Again, autofocus is fantastic as well. Stabilization, everything beautiful. Lance, my pleasure. Thanks for your help. Carl said thanks for your help. Carl Ryan, you like to the landscapes or Astro. All right, guys, I think it's time for my coffee. We've been on here for an hour and 12 minutes, or an hour and 15 if I add the 5 minutes on again. But it's been a pleasure. Don't forget to meet us next week, Sunday week, and I will have some more videos up with Kiara soon. So, guys, it's as in my New York accent, it's coffee time. Thanks so much for a great chat today, guys. Like I said, it's like talking with a group of friends with you guys, and I really mean that. And apart from that, I'll see you all for the next video. Catch you later. Have a great weekend, guys.